From the News Channel 5 Network, this is SportsLine.
All right, Nashville, welcome everybody to SportsLine. It is the Wednesday extravaganza. John Burton here, you there. Thanks so much for being with us on this warm Wednesday evening. Got a lot to get to tonight. We're going to talk mostly Titans. Love to get your thoughts. 737-7767. What are you going to be looking for in the first preseason game this Saturday night against the Chargers at Nissan Stadium? And what are some of your concerns about this Titans football team heading into the 2016 season? I have a couple of concerns myself. Number one, I think, is the wide receiver position. I'd be interested to see these these 4 preseason games. Who steps up from the wide receiver position? You know, they bring in Andre Johnson. The guy's 35 years old. Obviously, his best days are behind him. What are the fates of Justin Hunter? Kendall Wright still banged up, obviously with his hamstring. Doesn't look like he'll play Saturday night. So where does that leave guys like Trey McBride, Justin Hunter, who we mentioned, some of the other receivers, Rashard Matthews, and, of course, Tajay Sharp, who's the guy that everybody's been talking about, the guy that's been working with the ones, did well the other night from what I understand in the scrimmage. The wide receiver position is a big concern of mine because Marcus Mariota heading into year 2, he needs reliable weapons on the outside to throw to. I'm not sure 100% if he has that yet. So that's a concern. And number 2 is the secondary. Who's going to what are the Titans going to do from a safety position? Obviously, Jason McCourty is back at one corner. Looks great. Looks like a rookie. He's having a great camp. Looks like he is back fully 100%. I had a nice chat with him today. We may hear from him later on in tonight's show. But that safety position is where I'm a little bit concerned because we've noticed over the last several years the Titans have been burned a lot by tight ends down the middle of the football field. They need to get that shored up. And the secondary as a whole needs to do a better job of holding their coverage to allow that front 7 to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks. So those are my concerns about the Tennessee Titans. But we'll start to get some questions answered this Saturday night. Again, Nissan Stadium, 7 o'clock kick. It'll be the Titans and the San Diego Chargers. Now, a couple of our old buddies coming back to town, Zach Mettenberger and, of course, Ken Wisenhunt, who's now the OC of the Chargers, former head coach of the Titans. Zach Mettenberger, of course, the quarterback for the last 2 seasons, started several games with the Titans. To get more on the Tennessee Titans, a little bit more perspective, we bring in our good buddy Jimmy Wyatt from TitansOnline.com. Jimmy, welcome back to the Wednesday extravaganza. Thanks for being on with us.
I appreciate you having me on. How you doing, JB?
Man, I'm doing great. Always great to hear from you, my friend. All right, I was not at the scrimmage Monday night. Give me your overall thoughts. This is the first football game-like experience that the Titans have had since training camp opened. What were your overall impressions from what you saw Monday night?
Well, I thought the defense looked good and it continued to make plays on the ball and create turnovers, apply pressure. And I think the offense is a little bit out of sync at times and too many penalties. And Marcus Mariota himself, said he didn't feel like he was on this game. And so I think the defense won. But I think in fairness, these scrimmages are hard to really judge. You're not able to tackle, and there are times where Derrick Henry's in the open field with one other guy, and if you make contact with him, they're just assuming he's down and the play's blown dead. And the reality is, and a lot of those times, Derrick Henry's going to be breaking a tackle, and you're giving sack to guys at times when they're in the vicinity of the quarterback or he's throwing the ball out of bounds. So there are some things you just can't tell in a scrimmage setting, but I think one thing it did hammer home is that the defense looks really good. Offense certainly still has some questions to answer, and I heard some of the ones you're rolling off there, some concerns, but I think it's just another step. We'll know a lot more on Saturday night.
Yeah, and you and I were both at practice this morning, and it really seems like the players are chomping at the bit a little bit. They want to get into a preseason game, hit somebody else other than their own teammates. We're kind of in the dog days of camp, about 10 days in. This is where guys get a little antsy, and it starts to become Groundhog Day, right?
Yeah, it does. I think even reporters maybe sometimes antsy and just chomping at the bit to write about games. I mean, it's these days run together, and I think with today's Wednesday, you get your Wednesdays and your Thursdays mixed up, and you think of Saturdays.
All day I thought it was Thursday. Actually, every day to me is Tuesday lately since camp started, right?
So these days all running together in camp, and you can only watch so much. And these guys, by now, I watch them in practice today, and I watch them every day. And these one-on-one drills that the corners and the safeties are doing, and even the one-on-one drills that they're doing at every position. At O-line, D-line, these guys are wanting to switch it up a little bit because they kind of they know each other so well now, and so they kind of know. Receivers, have tried all their best moves to get open in practices, and the defensive backs know what they're going to do, and certainly in all positions you kind of got a good feel for the other guy. This will be different because you'll be going up against somebody brand new, and you'll be reacting to a lot of stuff and faced with more adversity. And so it's a good test. We'll find out a lot more about not only the front line guys, but a lot of guys that are fighting for roster spots as well.
Our good buddy Jimmy Wyatt from TitansOnline.com joined us here on SportsLine. You can follow him on Twitter at @JWyattSports. You can read his work, obviously, with TitansOnline.com. Former Titans beat writer with the Tennessean. Jimmy, you mentioned Marcus Mariota not being happy with the way he performed Monday night, and he kind of reiterated that today when he spoke to the media. Obviously, you'd like to see him perform better each and every practice, but you got to like the fact that he's taking ownership of him being the face of the franchise and the leader of this football team, and knowing whether it's practice or a game, he needs to perform.
Yeah, he's kind of a perfectionist, and he's his own worst critic. I mean, he takes blame when a lot of times it's not his fault, and I think certainly players and his teammates notice that. I think it makes you want to play harder for a guy like that. I mean, he reminds me a lot of Steve McNair in that regard, because Steve McNair, always blamed himself for mistakes. Even when, if a guy ran a wrong route, he's not going to sell anybody out. I mean, he's going to say it's his fault. And player, that's a sign of a good leader. It's certainly a testament to Marcus Mariota and how he's got thick skin and not worried about people criticizing him. And I think that's the way to do it. And that's not always hasn't always been the case. You see a lot of quarterbacks who giving bad body language or yelling at guys or trying to pass the blame to somebody else, and Marcus Mariota certainly doesn't do that.
Jimmy, you heard some of my concerns before we brought you on. I want to start with the wide receiver position. Obviously, Tajaé Sharpe's been a pleasant surprise. He's been working a lot with the ones. He continues to seem to get better and better every day. You have Andre Johnson, 35 years old, who they brought in right before the start of camp. Not 100% sure what he has left. Haven't seen a whole lot from guys like Justin Hunter. Obviously, Kendall Wright's been banged up. He hasn't even practiced in several days. I'm guessing he won't play Saturday night. What is your state of the Titans wide receiver core address? I'm a little concerned about that position right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair, because this has got a group with a lot of question marks attached to it, and while it's great news that Tajaé Sharpe has been so good and so reliable so early, reality is he probably shouldn't be running with the ones this early. I mean, guys that have been around here. See,
that's what I wanted to ask you, Jimmy. Is that more what Tajaé Sharpe has done, or is that kind of an indictment of what the rest of the receivers have not done?
Well, I think it's a combination of the two. I mean, I think Tajaé Sharpe has been, and coaches have said he's kind of been the best route runner on this team. He catches the ball consistently. He conducts himself in a professional manner, and this football means so much to him, and he commits himself to it. And I really like his attitude and just the way he carries himself for being such a young guy. So he's done a great job. Rashard Matthews, I think, is getting more comfortable the longer he's here. He's a tough guy who's going to catch the ball across the middle of the field. Kendall Wright, I think, there's plenty of reason to feel good about him, but then he has a hamstring injury that puts him out for a couple of more weeks. So that's not great. I will say that Harry Douglas has stepped up. and really done well playing in the slot. And I think Trey McBride is kind of a sleeper who's got some extra playing time, and he stands out every practice. But you've also got you mentioned Andre Johnson. I've been impressed with him early, but just have to curious to see how he holds up through the rest of camp. I mean, I think he certainly he obviously knows what he's doing. He's looked good so far. He's got to be consistent. Dorial Green-Beckham, they need to see more out of him. Mike Mularkey said that on numerous occasions. They also continue to challenge Justin Hunter, and he's running deeper in that rotation than Justin Hunter, I'm sure, would like. So some question marks with that group, but it's a pretty talented group. I mean, there's no question. I think they got size, they got speed, and so the competition is going to make all those guys better.
Jimmy Wyatt from TitansOnline.com joins us. You can follow him on Twitter at @JWyattSports. Good friend of the program, good friend, period. Always great to get his Titans perspective. Jimmy, offensive line, obviously the left guard spot remains open. Quinton Spain is taking the majority of the reps with the ones. I don't profess to be an expert when it comes to interior offensive line play, but it doesn't seem like neither Spain nor anybody else has really grabbed that position and made it theirs. What do you make of that?
Well, I think Spain has not really done anything to lose the job, and I don't know that some of those other guys have done anything to convince coaches that, hey, it's time to make a change. Now, I'm not saying that's not going to happen. Russ Grimm said himself that they want to get all the offense in, they want to get some certain things straight, and then they would maybe start to rotate guys and give some other players a chance. Spain has worked with the first group throughout the off season, and now he's worked with the first group all the way through training camp, and he's going to start, I'm sure, on Saturday against the Chargers. But after that, I mean, do you get a longer look at a Sebastian Tutola or Jeremiah Patasi or maybe Brian Swinkie in there? Yeah, that's a possibility. And Spain's also capable of playing some other positions on that offensive line as well. So I think you're going to still see players competing with him for that job. And I think as of right now, I think it's Spain's job to lose.
What about the secondary, Jimmy? It looks like it's going to be, Searcy and Johnson at the safeties. Obviously, McCourty's having a great camp. He's out there looking like a rookie. Parrish Cox, is he locked down that other corner spot? Is there still some things to be decided there?
I think it's going to end up being his job. I mean, what coaches had hoped is that Parrish Cox and Bryce McCain would battle for that job, and then maybe the runner-up would play in the slot. And unfortunately, Bryce McCain's been dealing with a hamstring injury throughout camp, so he hasn't really been in the competition. That's given Parrish Cox even more of a chance to establish himself. And I think when all's said and done, he'll be the starter outside opposite Jason McCourty. McCain was brought in here to be the nickel, but we really haven't seen him. We haven't seen him at all in camp work there. I think if he can get healthy and get back up to speed, I think he is he's probably the favorite to be that nickel. But a lot of other guys are getting a chance to play and get a chance to show themselves. So that's not he can't win it if he's not on the field. So he's got to get healthy and get back out.
Jimmy, one guy that I haven't really spoken to or really seen much of at training camp practice is the rookie defensive tackle Austin Johnson out of Penn State. What have you seen from him so far?
Well, I mean, he's a big guy, and he's going to be a good player, I think. One thing that has happened at that position is a guy named Antoine Woods, who's an undrafted free agent out of USC, has performed so well that he's kind of pushed himself ahead of the second-round draft pick in practice. He's running with the second team. He's a tough guy to block. I mean, he's very disruptive in the middle. You notice him blowing plays up. And I heard good things about him, this offseason, even before the pads came on. And now that the pads are on, he's really making a name for himself. So he's it's tough to make the team as an undrafted free agent these days with so many draft picks, and especially with what the front office did in free agency. But when people ask me who's an undrafted free agent that can make it, I think Woods is certainly that guy. I mean, in the way he's playing, he's putting himself in contention to play some.
Interesting. How about the battle for the third tailback position? We know DeMarco Murray and Derrick Henry are locks. Bishop Sankey, you got Fluellen in there. And, of course, Antonio Andrews and a couple of others. Talked to Sankey today. He looks bigger. He looks stronger. He feels really confident that he can have a good role in this offense. Of course, Dexter McCluster is kind of a different animal there because of his versatility. What do you make of the third tailback battle?
Yeah, man, unfortunately for Bishop Sankey, he's probably a year too late because no matter what he does, and I do think he's looked better, and looked like a different back, looked stronger and sturdier. But, DeMarco Murray is on this team now, and so is Derrick Henry. And those guys are running ahead of him. And unless one of those guys gets hurt, they're not stepping aside for somebody to come in and get a good amount of reps. So Henry and Murray and Henry, the top two backs. Dexter McCluster, I think, makes his team more as a specialty back. I think Justin Fowler makes this team as a fullback. That's fullbacks there. I think there's room for one more. At the start of camp, I would have said that Antonio Andrews, the favorite of that group, you mentioned, just because of his ability to play on special teams. But David Cobb's had a good training camp, and he's a heavy runner who moves the pile, and based on maybe the order that they run in practices, he's right in there. Now Andrews had a hamstring injury he's dealing with early. I think he'll get more opportunities moving forward, and all those guys are going to get a chance to play in preseason games. But the race for that extra spot. And I guess it's the fifth back.
Right.
I'm counting against Fowler in that mix. It's it's up for grabs, and we'll just see who wins it.
Final question, Jimmy. We'll get you out of here on this one. For Titans fans that are either going to the game Saturday night or going to be watching on television, what should they be looking out for, and what are you going to be looking out for in preseason game number 1 against the Chargers?
Well, I think you want to see a crisp performance, and just something you can build off of in week 2. I mean, the first preseason game is not one where the starters are going to play a lot. I mean, usually it's a couple of series, maybe a quarter, and then you kind of build on that for the second game, and then the third game is when you play your starters the most extensive period of time, and then the fourth game is usually when you ease back and start gearing up for the season. I think what they'd like to do is just feel good about themselves, especially on offense, where I know Marcus Mariota's, looking to play well after him feeling like he didn't play so well in the scrimmage. So you want some positive mode. You don't want a situation where you go in and have a couple of turnovers early and look bad, and then you got people going into panic mode. Early August. So if they can just keep that from happening, I think it'll be a success. The most important thing is you just don't want anybody to get hurt. I mean, that's the tough thing about these preseason games, about training camp in general. I hate it when I saw in Buffalo today that Reggie Ragland, linebacker from Alabama, tears an ACL for the season before the season's even started. And you don't want to see that kind of stuff happen in these games.
No question about it. Looking forward to seeing Wiz on Saturday night. I know I am.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure. Looking forward to seeing him. I'm looking forward to seeing Metberger, who I'm sure we're going to see a lot of. These preseason games, I mean, they're fun to watch for a quarter usually. And it's fun to watch the young guys who's going to step up. And a lot of times in these games, you're just wanting the clock to run. But anytime you have a little extra intrigue in these games, it's good. So I think it'll be fun. The first preseason game's always, exciting because you're back in the stadium and got football back upon us, and so I'm looking forward to seeing that, and kind of looking forward to seeing the 2016 Titans, how they do right out of the gate.
No question about it. Jimmy, thanks so much for being on tonight. Next time you're on, I promise we'll talk some Vandy football. Have a great night. My best to you and your wonderful family.
Okay, appreciate it. Have a good night.
All right. The great Jimmy Wyatt. You can read his work on TitansOnline.com. And, of course, follow him on Twitter at JWyattSports. By the way, you can follow me on Twitter at NC5_John Burton. Also, Facebook me at NC5_John Burton. Love to interact with you on Facebook so we can chat there. We're going to take a break because we are way over. But, you know, when you have a great guest like Jimmy Wyatt, you got to let him do his thing. We'll come back. We'll listen to some sound from today's practice and your phone calls. Stay with us.